Last year, I tore my ACL skiing, and what followed was one of the most humbling, frustrating, and deeply interesting experiences of my life as a movement teacher. Because here I am, someone who teaches women how to look after their bodies, and I had to learn all over again how to look after mine. Hi, I'm Bridget Pierce, a Pilates and movement teacher, and this is Move to Nurture, a channel for women who want to move well for the long term, not just get through a class or the latest fitness fad, but to actually understand their bodies. Today, I want to talk about something I know firsthand. The road to recovery is never straight, and what that's taught me, both physically and the rest. And I'll show you some foundational moves to check your hip strength. And that's really helpful if you get pain whilst walking for any length of time. When I tore my ACL, the first thing I felt after the initial shock was impatience. I wanted a timeline, a straight line from injury to fix. I wanted someone to tell me, do these things in this order, and on this date, you'll be back. Now, for ACL recovery, there is a very structured timeline with things to achieve at set steps. And it always doesn't work like that. Some days I felt really strong and capable and certain and on track with all the milestones for recovery. And the next day something would tighten or I'd overdo something. And then I was back to being in pain. And what I've learned through this experience sounds really simple, but I am the expert on my body. I'm working with a physiotherapist and an osteopath, and they are both giving me really valuable support. But I am the one that decides how much or how little physical activity I do, the risks I take, and whether something feels okay or not. Now, I truly understand why my clients want me to just tell them what to do to relieve pain. Firsthand, I get it. But I also have a deeper appreciation for an approach that supports you to sense your own body as you learn and develop mobility and build your strength. The Move to Nurture approach. The body heals through movement, careful, targeted, respectful movement, not pushing through pain, not resting indefinitely, moving within your limits and trusting that those limits will slowly, quietly expand. The courage it takes to keep challenging yourself without aggravating what's healing. That is really underrated. It requires patience and self-knowledge in equal measure, not something that a health practitioner can tell you. But it's easier with a guide who is walking that journey with you as well. If this is the kind of conversation you want more of, subscribe to this channel. And now let me show you what I mean about moving within your limits. Let's move. We're going to assess hip strength. Great, so for this section, you will need a yoga block or a thick recipe book or a thick science textbook to stand on. But we're going to start just standing on the ground, feet hip width apart, and just standing normally, bringing your attention to your body. I want you to notice where your weight's falling through your feet. Is your weight on your toes? Is your weight more back in your heels? And there's no fixing, just noticing for right now. Have a look down at your feet. Are your feet parallel or are your toes facing away from each other? Move them into parallel so your toes are straight forward. How does that feel? Does it feel like you're kind of pigeon-toed and then you look down, your feet are straight? Does it feel comfortable? Does it feel strange? Again, just notice. From this parallel foot position, we're going to start to now shift our weight. So we're going to shift our weight forward over our toes, and we do this by moving your hips forward just over your toes. Your feet aren't going to move, just your hips are going to move back over your heels and forward over your toes. I'll come side on so you can see that. Forward over your toes back over your heels. Now just notice how that feels when you've got your weight over your toes. My feet have to work a lot harder. My toes kind of grip on the ground a little bit. My calves kind of pull at the back because I'm moving forward. When my weight's over my heels, it feels better for my feet, but I kind of feel like I might fall backwards if I go too far. So notice that and shift your weight by shifting your hips over your feet, forward and back. And notice where might be a really comfortable place to have your weight. And then stand in that comfortable place, somewhere in the middle there, where your toes aren't taking all your weight, but you're not going to fall backwards, but your heels are taking more of your weight to free up your toes. Feels pretty good, right? Now, we're going to continue with that standing, and we're just going to shift the weight slightly to one foot and lift the other foot. You don't have to lift it high, just off the ground will do. So just lifting. Now I want you to notice what happens to your hips once you've lifted your foot off the ground. It's always good to do this with a wall or a chair nearby so you can stabilize if you need to. But noticing, does your free hip drop as soon as you take your foot off the ground? Does your standing knee bend? Do you tuck a little bit and shift forward on your feet? So that would look like this from the side. What's happening in your hips and legs when you're moving to one foot? If you find that there's big changes happening between your feet and your hips when you lift one foot off the ground, that indicates that this hip needs some strengthening. Let's try out the other foot. So feet straight forward, parallel, and just lifting that other foot off the ground. Noticing, does that other hip drop? Does it hike up? Do you tuck and push your weight forward on your standing leg? What's happening? Do you feel fine? And you're like, yeah, I could stay here all day long. This tells you about your hip strength. And that, of course, feeds into balance and stability and all sorts of things. Let's do some work on our hip strength now. So now is when you'll need your yoga block or your book. You're going to stand on that with one foot, and both legs are going to stay straight for this exercise. You're going to drop the hip to drop the foot down towards the floor, and you're going to lift this hip to lift this leg away from the floor. Now I've got my hand on this other area of my hip, and I want to be feeling the muscles working under this hand. So I'm dropping and lifting, dropping and lifting. And this works our glute med, which is one of the key muscles over the side of the hip, and really important for standing on one leg, which we do every time we take a step. So really important. Great, so by now that should be kind of really firing up around this area where I have my hand. And then come on down and change feet. So this time it's the standing leg that's working. You've got toes basically going straight forward. And we're lifting this hip as high or higher than the other one and dropping it. And the leg is just following suit. Now, if you can't feel it, one of the sort of common cheats that happens is where we tend to, if you've got an anterior pelvic tilt and you're kind of arched in the back, and you sort of do a lot of it with the ribs and the lower back, so that way your lower back will be very arched, and you might feel it more in your lower back than your hip. If that's you, you've got to tuck your pelvis under a little bit because you really want to feel it right where my hand is, where that greater trochanter comes out on the side of your thigh there. All around there is the business. You should feel it getting nice and warm. And that is a move to nurture. It's a great move to help with stability and a foundation of strength. Take a moment before you move on. Notice how your body feels right now compared to when we started. Not dramatically different, maybe, but something will have shifted. A little more space somewhere, a little more warmth in your hips, a little more sense of your body being present, rather than just carrying you around. That noticing is the practice. Everything else builds from it. Do subscribe if you want more support for this kind of awareness and presence in your body. The road to recovery is never straight, whether that's a physical recovery, something you're building, or a return to movement after a long pause. Your job is to keep showing up, to move within your limits on the hard days, to celebrate small shifts that nobody else can see, and to trust that the body is doing something even when it doesn't look like much. I find that genuinely sustaining, and I hope you do too.